All right, everybody. Today we are going to be doing a two-handed playthrough of X-Men Marvel United, the board game. As you can see here, we are going up against Sabretooth, and we are going to be playing as Jean Grey and Scott Summers, aka Cyclops. We are fully set up here. Some things to note. We did have to choose one of our heroes to be the hunted hero, and so you can see this token here designates the hunted hero. That is going to be starting at Jean Grey. We have 6 locations that were shuffled and identified randomly. And we also had Sabretooth's location starting at the X-Men facility. I'm so sorry. Sabretooth's location starting at the Weapon X facility. And then Jean and Scott are going to be starting over here at the X-Jet. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So if you are not familiar with how to play X-Men Marvel United, I did do an overview, but we will kind of learn as we go. So the first thing that we do here is once we've done the setup, we can go ahead and start with the villain activation. So we're going to take one of their plot cards, and we are going to be playing it to the timeline. For the purposes of this playthrough, I'm just going to have the timeline kind of be in the middle here, and we'll see how that goes. So he draws this master plot card. Hopefully we can see this okay. So the first thing that he does is move. So he moves to the next counterclockwise location with any heroes. So that's going to be pretty easy. He moves here. Because he moved here, we are going to look at the threat card on the location. And because it has this symbol here, that means that it will trigger this ability. So we discard all citizens from this location and deal 1 damage to a hero in both adjacent locations. So that does discard the citizen token here, so we'll put that back over here. Luckily though, we do not have any heroes in the adjacent locations here, so we can ignore that component, that part of it. And before I go on, I will just mention that this is meant to be a circular board for the purposes of filming. I kind of did 3 and 3 here. So just know that Muir Island and Xavier Institute are considered to be adjacent, as are Asteroid M and Hangar Bay. So you can think of this as a circle. All right, so continuing to look at Sabretooth, you'll see he now has a BAM effect. So if we look up here on the dashboard, his BAM effect is we deal 2 damage to 1 hero in Sabretooth's location, and it must be the hunted hero if they are at that location. So I should have actually drawn 3 cards for each of them here. Okay, so his BAM effect does 2 damage to the hunted hero, which is Jean. So when a hero takes damage, they have to look at the cards in their hand and then choose to put 2 of them on the bottom of their deck. So what the cards do is each of them will have an icon down here at the bottom. When we play that on the hero turn, they will be able to take actions according to the icons at the bottom of the cards that they played, as well as the last card that was played in the timeline by a hero. And then they also have, some cards have these abilities. We happen to have 3 of them in Jean's opening hand. And they are basically one-time effects that happen as soon as you play them to the timeline. So we have 2 of these telekinesis cards here. So we can probably put 1 of those down, and then between telepathy and telekinesis, I'm going to get rid of telepathy for now. It lets you swap the previous hero card in the storyline with any other hero card. That's going to be more powerful later in the game. So I'm going to keep this major telekinesis card and then put these other 2 at the bottom of Jean's deck to resolve that damage. Okay. And now that we've done that, you can see on Sabretooth's card, he also adds thugs to the 2 adjacent locations. So let me put that back in the timeline here, and then let's go ahead and add those thug tokens. So these thug tokens that are being added, we want to try to keep them down if we can on these locations. So now that he added the thug location to these 2 locations, you can see there's no more spots on either of the locations that can hold any more of these tokens. So if in a future turn he were to add another token to these locations, that triggers an overflow effect, which is listed up here on the board. And essentially for Sabretooth, it's saying that if you need to add a citizen or a thug token to a location and you can't, you deal 1 damage to the hunted hero. So it is worth noting that one of the endgame triggers for us losing as the heroes is if his villainous plot is to occur. And basically, he wants to knock out the hunted hero 4 times. So if he knocks Jean out, then Cyclops will become the hunted hero, and then it'll pass back and forth. If that happens 2 times, then the heroes have lost the game, essentially. Okay. Another way that we can lose is if we run out of cards in our hands and decks. Okay, but with that being said, that has finished the villain activation, and so now we move on to the player activation. So I'm going to put these above here to remind ourselves that we have them. And we're going to go ahead and start with Jean. So the first thing you do on a hero turn is you draw a card. So we're going to do that. And then we select a card from our hand to play. So I'm looking at the abilities on the cards as well as the icons down here. This green icon means that we can move to an adjacent location. This yellow icon is a heroic action, and that means that we can either rescue one of these citizen tokens, which rescuing 9 of them is one of our public objectives, or we can add a token to the threat. And once you have 3 tokens on a threat, you get to remove it from the board, and then you put the cleared threat here. So we do want to clear 4 threat as one of the public objectives. And when you remove the threat, you can see it will unlock some location abilities, which can be pretty helpful to the heroes as well. So with that being said, I do think I like this move and heroic action icon. And one of this move and heroic action icon. And one of the things that we want to consider when we're making these options is not only is Jean going to be able to do this right now, Cyclops on his turn is also going to be able to take these same actions. So let's go ahead and play this to the timeline. We'll put this card back in Jean's hand, and now she gets to move and do a heroic action in any order. Unfortunately for Jean, if she ends her turn here, she is going to take a damage, and she only has 1 card remaining in hand. So it's a bit early, but I actually am going to spend 1 of these move tokens as well to have her move 2 locations. So she's going to move 1 and then 2, go to Xavier Institute over here, and then she's going to take a heroic action, and let's back that up. She's going to move, she's going to take a heroic action to clear this civilian token here, so that we can prevent that overflow from happening, and then she's going to have spent that movement token to come here. Now she's avoiding taking a damage for ending her turn there. So that's Jean's activation, and then we are going to move on to Cyclops' turn. So again, he draws a card, and then he chooses 1 of his cards to play. So let's go ahead and have him do this leadership ability. So he's going to keep these cards in hand, and now that he's played a card to the timeline, he can take his icon here as well as the actions at the bottom of the previous card in the timeline that was played by a hero, and he can do these in any order. So he has 2 heroic actions and a movement action, but before we do that, we trigger his leadership ability to give a wild token. So he will give a wild token to Jean here. Okay. So with his move action and his 2 heroic actions. So let's just take a look at here. If you end your turn here, you can deal 1 damage to a thug or henchman in any location. That's not too bad. End a turn, you can move to any other location. That's also pretty cool. But let's just go ahead and move over here. Again, I don't want to overflow if I can prevent it. So he's taken the move action, his heroic action. He will go ahead and rescue this civilian here. And then his second heroic action, he will just go ahead and place. And I don't think he needs to end his turn. He is not the hunted hero, so we don't need to worry about this no place to hide card. So that's going to end his turn. We will then switch back over to Jean. And then this will be the last hero turn before another villain activation. So at the start of the game, you play 3 hero cards and then you play a villain card. Once you complete one objective, up here you can see the villain will then start to act after every 2 hero cards. So it could be a good idea to try to finish 2 objectives at the same time if possible, so that you're not having the hero activating more often. Okay, so Jean, she's going to go ahead and draw her card here. She got a bit of damage. She has a heroic action she's going to be taking from Cyclops here. Let's go ahead and have her do this major telekinesis. So she gets a heroic action and a damaging action split as she likes in her and adjacent locations. So for her heroic action, let's go ahead and have her place one of these tokens here. And then for her damage, let's go ahead and have her actually clear this thug from this location so that it has 2 spots remaining here. Okay, and now she can move and she can do another heroic action. So I am going to go ahead and I'm just curious. The end of turn on this one is she can draw cards until she has 3 in her hand, which is actually pretty good for her. So that way she can try to get some more cards in hand in case she takes damage, so she does not get knocked out. So basically, when you take damage and you no longer have cards in your hand to put at the bottom of your deck, you're considered to be knocked out. So she's actually, and this is a pretty aggressive use of these wild tokens, but she's going to spend both of these wild tokens to go ahead and put the 2 more threat on here, or I'm sorry, the 2 more heroic tokens on here, clearing this out. So that is removed. We get to put this clear threat option on the clear threat objective. And she can now end her turn here. She could move. We're going to choose not to. She can draw cards until she has 3 in her hand. So she's going to draw back up to 3 cards. All right, so that is the 3rd hero activation. So now we have to see what Sabretooth has to say about all that. He has Hunter Senses, moves to the location with the hunted hero. So he is going to go ahead and move over here to Jean's location. His BAM ability will trigger, so we do need to deal 2 damage to Jean, and then we will be putting 2 thugs on the adjacent locations here. So the 2 damage to Jean, let's see. She can get rid of this 2 damage for right now. Though actually, yeah, we're going to have her get rid of this 2 damage for right now. And keep this move and damage card. Let's go on the bottom of her deck here. And now he puts out the thug tokens. So we're going to get 2 more on the Weapon X facility here. And 2 more on Muir Island over here. It's a good thing we cleared out that citizen token earlier. All right, so that was Sabretooth's activation. It is now Cyclops' turn. So let's see what he's got going on here. So he has 2 copies of Optic Blast where he can damage in both adjacent locations. That's actually not terrible because he does have a move here from Jean's last card. So he could move here and then take out some thugs. Oh, but I just realized that's actually when he plays it to the timeline, so he could not do that, and it would be a little bit of a waste. So let's go ahead and play this card and then try to set up for these Optic Blasts later. So we're going to go ahead and play that card there. So he now has 2 moves and a heroic action. So let's say his 2 moves could be... I actually think he wants to just end his turn here to try to clear off these with his damage later. And his heroic action will say he can rescue this civilian. You see, I haven't really committed to one of the public objectives yet. Civilians, if more come out onto the board, could be, but we do have a ton of thugs, so that seems like a good one to maybe aim for. Back over to Jean, she will draw a card. Ooh, double wild. That's pretty good. And a move and a heroic. So she could move down here and clear this out. She can discard a card from her hand to the bottom of her deck to gain 2 attack icons, huh? Yeah, you know what? Let's do it. And then that way Scott will get 2 wild on his next turn. So Jean will go ahead and... I'm really kind of worried about this overflow, so I'm actually reconsidering my options here. She could also move here, another hero in this or an adjacent location. And that means that they would have to be grouped up, which I don't love. Okay, she's going to go ahead and rescue a civilian with one of the heroic actions here. And she can then move here and then take out 2 of these thugs. Okay, and that will be Jean's turn. So Scott draws a card. And I think we've already kind of decided what we want to do here. So we are going to do an optic blast. And we get to deal a damage in both adjacent locations. So we get to clear 2 more of these thugs out here. So we're making some pretty good progress on this thug objective. And then he gets to damage in his location as well. So let's go ahead and take care of that. And then he has 2 wilds. Yeah, you know what? Let's have him move here for one of them. And then he can go ahead and throw a heroic token on this threat. Jeez, I can't orient that correctly. Okay. Jean is in a bit of trouble here. She might get knocked out, but you know what? I think we're making pretty good progress. So timing-wise, we'll just see what happens. So Sabretooth is going to activate. He actually does not move. As long as this card is face up in the storyline, Sabretooth recovers 1 health at the end of his turns, but he will not go above his starting value, and he places thugs in his location and the adjacent locations. So that's unfortunate. He places a thug in this location here. He places a thug in his location. And then he attempts to place a thug at Muir Island, but that does trigger the overflow effect, which deals 1 damage to the hunted hero. So even though he wasn't moving, he does still knock her out. So Jean gets knocked out. We're going to turn her on her side. And Scott becomes the new hunted hero. Okay, well, now it is Jean's turn. So really, as far as the knockout goes, all that happens is when it becomes her turn again, she stands up and she draws 4 new cards. All right. So she has a damage. She can take out one of these thugs. We kind of want to be careful with that because we need to make some progress on these other ones if we can. She can swap the previous hero card in the storyline with any other hero card in the storyline. So that is pretty powerful. It could let her completely clear this to gain 2 damage tokens. Yeah, you know what? Let's do it. So she's going to go ahead and play her telepathy card. So swapping the previous hero card in the storyline with any other hero card in the storyline. So let's just say she swaps these 2 here. And now she has 3 wild tokens to use, and she's just going to use all 3 of them to clear out this killing spree card. So that will go away. We will put one of these threats tokens on the objective. And then she's going to end her turn. She can discard the card from her hand to the bottom of the deck to gain 2 damage tokens, which can be very helpful. So let's go ahead and get rid of her card that has the 2 heroic action icons on it. And she will gain 2 damage tokens. All right, now we're going to pass over to Scott's turn. He is going to go ahead and draw a card. And Scott, what do we want you to be doing? All right, I'm actually going to have him go ahead and play his double heroic icon action here. But can Jean do anything with that? I actually don't think that makes sense. So I've changed my mind. We are going to go ahead and play the Optic Blast here. With his wild icon here, I am going to go ahead and clear out this No Place to Hide card. And we will have cleared 3 of the 4 threats. So that took care of the wild icon. I forgot to do the damage in both adjacent locations. You know what? I keep forgetting that you have to trigger the ability when it goes to the timeline, so I'm actually going to switch the one that I played there. I'm going to have him punch one of these thugs, getting rid of that. And then I'm going to have him end his turn, and he can deal a damage to a thug or a henchman in any location. We'll go ahead and clear one of these thugs off of there to prevent any battle flow. All right, so Jean. She draws a card. She does have major telekinesis, which lets her do heroic actions and damage split in her and adjacent locations, which is not bad. In a perfect world, she would be able to clear off this, but it doesn't look like she's going to be able to do that. But let's start working on it. So she's going to play her move and heroic action card. First, she does have a damage token, so she will go ahead and defeat the thugs. That does fulfill the defeat thugs condition. So I'm going to take all of these off here, and we have unlocked. So the villain now acts after every 2 hero cards. She is now going to move. Yeah, she'll move here. And then she will go ahead and use the heroic action to put a token down. Try to work on clearing out this location. That is the end of her turn. I am going to condense the timeline here, keeping the cards in the order played. So let's just put those, shift these up here, and then I will pull that pile back if we need to reference previous cards played for any reason. Okay, so now Sabretooth is activating after every 2 hero turns. So we have Hunter Senses move to the location with the hunted hero. So in this case, he moves all the way over here to Cyclops. And then he does the BAM effect, which is going to deal 2 damage to Cyclops. And unfortunately, that is enough to knock him out. And so moves back over to Jean there. It is worth noting that if Cyclops and Jean were in the same location, that the BAM could happen multiple times. So I didn't really explain that. It hasn't come up yet. But essentially, when you knock out the hero, the BAM effect of Sabretooth happens again. But his BAM effect specifically deals 2 damage to a hero in the location. So as long as you don't group them up, which is one of the primary reasons I've been keeping them separated, you don't have to worry about that too much. But there is a scenario where, you know, he knocks out Cyclops and then knocks out, and then it's a chain effect essentially. So just something to be mindful of if you're playing through against Sabretooth. Okay, and so now we need to put 2 civilian tokens on his adjacent locations. So we finally got some civilians out on the board. He's been very heavy on the thug tokens so far. So put those here. Okay, and that ends his activation. So now we go to Scott's turn. He will stand back up and draw 4 cards. And what do we got here? So if he were to move, he could clear out this pretty easily. So let's do that. Because he already has a move and a heroic action from Jean here. So he would only need 1 more heroic action. So I'm going to go ahead and play this double heroic action card so that we can work on damaging Sabretooth here. So let's move there. We're going to do one of the heroic actions to clear one of these civilian tokens. And then we will do 2 more to get rid of this threat here. And so now at the end of the turn, you may gain tokens. This goes here. We did clear this second objective, so now we are able to begin putting damage on Sabretooth, which is nice. It is worth knowing if you do work on clearing this third one, each hero immediately draws a card, so there is still a benefit from doing that. But really, the main focus on clearing those objectives is to be able to damage the villain here. So Cyclops is going to end his turn. He can gain one of these tokens, and since we now are hoping to defeat Sabretooth, I'm going to go ahead and gain one of these damage tokens here. All right, and now it's Jean's turn. So she's going to draw a card. And you know, I'm a big fan of this telepathy card, so let's... but you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I would like to use the telepathy to get back her double wild card. Sorry, her telepathy. But that might be better when she's already in Sabretooth's location, so she could deal 3 damage to him in 1 turn. So I'm actually going to do major telekinesis here. And when played, I get to do a heroic action and a damage split as she likes in her and the adjacent location. So her heroic action can rescue this civilian, you know, just in case we're able to draw a card later. But the damage we can go ahead and put onto Sabretooth here, so we will remove 1 of his health. And now she can move, so she's going to move here. And she has 2 attack tokens from earlier, so she's going to go ahead and spend both of those to deal 2 more damage to Sabretooth here. Okay, and that is going to end her turn. She may deal 1 damage to any thug or henchman in any location. It doesn't matter too much. Let's go ahead and just get one of these thugs off of the board so that we can try to prevent any kind of overflow from happening there in the future. And that is the end of 2 hero activations. So Sabretooth is now going to respond. He's going to move to the next clockwise location with any heroes. So next clockwise is going to be over here with Scott. He's going to do the BAM effect. So he deals 2 damage to Scott. So let's see which 2 cards that we want to get rid of. Ooh, that's a choice. Do we want to move it all? I don't think so. Let's just keep the damage. I don't know why I'm even considering it. Okay, and then we put out the 2 civilian tokens in his adjacent locations here. So let's go ahead and do that. We've been doing a pretty good job of managing the tokens here. So luckily the overflow is not going to trigger. All right, and that is the end of Sabretooth's activation. So now we go to Scott. So he's going to go ahead and draw his card. And let's just wallop on him, right? So he's going to play the double damage card here. And he has a move from earlier. I did forget, because of the regenerative factor here, he was supposed to heal 1 at the start of his turn, so go ahead and correct that now. But now Scott can do 1, 2, 4 damage with these 2 tokens here and his double attack card. And that is enough. Sabretooth only had 3 health remaining, so we are able to defeat Sabretooth. We did get knocked out a couple of times, but you know, that's how it goes. So hopefully there weren't too many errors there. If I did mess up, definitely please feel free to comment down below. I know I caught the the one with the regenerative healing there. There may have been one time when I forgot to draw a card at the start of Cyclops' turns, but I don't think that made too much of a difference. Might have prevented him from getting knocked out, but anyway, I hope that gave you a good idea of what the gameplay is like. Sabretooth is, you know, probably the more beginner-friendly of all of the heroes, so yeah, I hope you are able to dive in and explore more about the game, and let me know if you have any questions. All right, thanks everybody, and as always, happy gaming.